Hey friend, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here listening to another episode of the Pattern Design Circle podcast. Here we talk all about the ins and outs of designing knit and crochet patterns and running a business that makes it all possible. I'm Jessica, your host, knitting pattern designer, design mentor, and the friend in your ear. Can't wait to dive right in. The Pattern Design Circle podcast is sponsored by the Pattern Design Circle, a membership community for knit and crochet pattern designers that are feeling lost, lonely, or frustrated in their business. It connects you with a supportive community that's always eager to answer your questions and help you through the hard times. And there's loads of resources and activities specifically catered to business and designing. Sound like your jam? Check it out at snickerdoodleknits.com/design-circle. That's snickerdoodle, like the cookie, knits, knits.com/design-circle. All right, let's get into it. Hello, my friend. I am so excited to be here chatting in your ear. And this is going to be a new kind of episode. I think we're going to do several of them. We'll see what you think. Let me know what you think of the format. But this is really inspired by another piece of content and talking about it and talking about how it applies to us as creative business owners, as knitting pattern designers and crochet pattern designers and all of the things, and really trying to share some motivation, some inspiration, all of the things. So part of this comes from a space, I guess I really enjoy consuming content from other business owners, other business coaches and mentors in other industries. They might be creator-related creatives. Like I was watching like last month, March. I watched several pieces of YouTube content from content creators there. So those are creatives, not necessarily what we think of as like creative artists in our industry. But there's so many aspects of creativity and of art. So it does include, filmmaking industries and content creation, and of course, what I think of as more traditional art with paintings and sculptures. And there's so many things, and a lot of our brains work very similarly, and we have a lot of similar struggles and desires and all of those things. So I find it extremely inspirational and motivational to step outside of our industry and listen to people from a different perspective. I think there is value from both perspectives. I guess it started because when I was a new knitting pattern designer, there weren't coaches for designers and for fiber businesses. So I was going to quote unquote just regular business mentors and coaches, which, I think in a lot of ways is a good thing. And also it's difficult in a lot of ways. Like, obviously I was still looking for people who knew stuff about our industry, who actually understood, a lot of the different nuances of the fiber world and knitting and crochet specifically. And that's why I built Pattern Design Circle to create that community, all of those things. But I find, I guess right now I'm really kind of trying to find this balance of, all right, yes, these connections, this networking, all of the experience in our industry is extremely valuable. And at the same time, I think it is so helpful to also look at perspectives outside of the industry, because it can be easy to end up in, well, I guess I just saw a designer posting about it yesterday or today, talking about, it can become like an echo chamber. Like you hear the same things over and over again. This is the way we do things. This is how it operates. And sometimes it's helpful to follow those, kind of what's already established. And sometimes it's actually a really good, helpful thing to get out of that bubble and to look at what might be possible that isn't the normal right now. What there might be things from other creative industries or non-creative industries where what they're doing actually could benefit our industry as well, could benefit the customers, could benefit the business owners, all of the things. So, um, with that, today I am talking all about a documentary, which I've kind of been obsessed about for a few weeks now. I watched the documentary. It's now free on YouTube from Yes Theory, but it's called Project Iceman, and it's about this person, Anders, who was the first person, it was actually in 2020, to complete an Ironman in Antarctica. And so, an Ironman, yes, is swimming and biking and running. And he did all of those things in Antarctica. And I'm sure you can already conjure up some of the difficulties that would come up with that. I, it was even once he got there, it wasn't easy to do. But I found this documentary so inspirational because like his whole purpose in this is to prove that when people say something's not possible, it's not necessarily factual. Like when they say that. So everybody he told about this idea to, or share this idea with, they're like, that's not possible. Like that you can't do that. Like, um, and people who had completed lots of Ironmans on had set their own records and all of this stuff, like to them, it just was like, it's absolutely bizarre. Nobody would do that. And uh, he was determined to show that it's possible. And it's so beautiful to me. Uh, and so he mentions multiple times throughout the documentary that people will tell you what's not possible when they haven't even done it themselves. They haven't even tried themselves. So the people that he was talking to, nobody else had ever even tried it. So everybody who's telling him it's not possible, this is from ideas in their brain around what's possible and what's not possible. They've never gone out to try to prove it. They've never seen anyone else go out to try to prove whether that statement was right or wrong, but they are so convinced in themselves that it's not possible that then they pass on that belief to him. And actually, this is a conversation I just was having in a mastermind group that I'm in, and we were talking about this, and so I brought this up about how people place their limiting beliefs on us, and we're used to it as a society, like basically our opinions, sharing them as facts. A lot of people do. And so um another member of the mastermind, she was like, I feel like everything just keeps pointing to like everything's made up, money's made up, and all of these different beliefs, they are made up. And I was like, so if we're just going to make up what we want to believe, why don't we choose to believe in positive things, right? Like, I've just felt so much recently that the energy that you surround yourself with impacts your trajectory so much. When we surround ourselves with people who are negative and Debbie Downers and feel like nothing's possible, I know at least I pick up on energy a lot from people. So if there's a lot of people talking like that, then I'm going to start to get depressed and down and frustrated and just like want to give up. And I mean, honestly, that's kind of what happened with all of my the burnout and stuff that I've talked about, where uh, just a lot of negative things that people were sharing with me and saying about me. And yeah, I got depressed again. And so, but surrounding ourselves with people and things that are positive and inspirational and motivational, even if we aren't going to reach maybe this pinnacle of what we think we really want, it helps so much just in our own mindset, in our own beliefs in ourselves, in our own excitement and passion and enthusiasm. And even if, there's the saying, obviously, shoot for the moon and you'll land among the stars. Like if you didn't even have the optimism to be like, hey, that's it, something in here is possible, you wouldn't even get as far, or I wouldn't even get as far, um, as if, you know, like it just pushes it. I feel like it does push us so much to be surrounded with things that are positive and optimistic. And um, like I always believe in a realistic approach. Like I think it's important to talk about the things that are hard. Life is hard, business is hard. That is absolutely a truth that I think is important to talk about, to validate each other and to work through it. And at the same time, it's this balance of not getting stuck in the hard, but still having excitement and inspiration and motivation and all of the things to keep moving forward and to see what is possible and to push the boundaries of what is possible. And then something else that had been shared in the mastermind group yesterday was that sometimes people also will tell you that it's not possible if they've tried. So the what Anders shared in the documentary a lot was people will tell you it's not possible when they haven't even tried. Sometimes people have tried and they failed, and so they're going to tell you that it doesn't work. And sometimes that's not necessarily true either. Like we're all on our own path. We're all have different strengths and weaknesses. We all have different priorities and values. And so if something doesn't work out for one person, that doesn't mean it won't work out for you. It might inform how you approach your goal. It might inform how you approach your goals. Is that what I just said? Your dream, your whatever, your path. But it doesn't dictate or create a fact around what is possible for you. So if we take the knitting pattern industry specifically, there are a lot of designers who haven't made it, who haven't been able to run successful businesses in terms of financial profitability. But we also can see that that doesn't mean that it's not possible. There are, we see some of the really big designers, but there's also a lot of not so big designers that you don't even know their names of who are making a, a full-time income from their designs and whatever other revenue they are bringing in for their business. But as a pattern designer with a business around that, oftentimes they do have, like a Patreon or a community or things like that alongside it, teaching classes. But somebody who hasn't made it can't say that it's absolutely not possible for anybody to make it. And somebody who has made it can't say that it's impossible to fail. Like there's such a huge variety of experiences. So when you're being told from somebody else to not follow your dreams, to not follow your passions, to not believe that it's possible, when they are downplaying maybe what's possible for you, uh, take it with a grain of salt. And yeah, I think it's Nicole Walters who has shared, if you wouldn't go to this person to ask them for advice on that path, don't listen to them when they say that it's not possible. Like if um let's take my partner for example. He has been pretty adamant since I first started that it wasn't possible to uh, really make an income from pattern designing. Um, he does not knit. He does not crochet. He is not in the yarn world at all. He knows he's not a business owner. He has no interest in small business. Uh, he knows nothing about marketing. Um, I joke, when he shares something, and I was like, "You would make a really bad business owner." He's amazing at what he does, but he is not a business owner. He is not like familiar at all with the fiber industry. We were at a art festival this last weekend, and there was a crocheter there, and she had an art installation up, and she was sitting there crocheting, and he's like, "Do you know her?" I was like, "No." He's like I know he was joking, but probably only half joking. He's like, "There's not that many of you, are there?" Like, I'm not a crocheter, I'm a knitter, and I'm actually not. I'm very much introvert, so I'm not out in the community a whole lot. I don't know a lot of the knitters and crocheters around here. Um, but anyway, just like, so if there's somebody who has this like basically no knowledge of what you're doing, if you want to go to them and ask them, so I want to go to him and be like, all right, how would I make this successful? What should I mean, I guess I have tried a couple times, but uh he's not the person that I would actually expect to have the answers to be like, all right, this is what we're going to do to build a successful business. This is a business plan. This is a marketing plan. These are the people in the industry that I think you'd be a great fit for to collaborate with. Like, he would not be the person that I would go to for that. So why listen when they share their limiting beliefs? And yeah, I hope you get the gist. Like, that's basically what Nicole is saying when she's like, if you want to go to them for advice, don't listen to their naysaying as well. Um, so yeah, back to Project Iceman. Basically I took notes on my phone as I was watching it because I was like, this is so good. I love this. I want to remember some of this. And then I was like, oh, I want to share this with other people too. So um anyway, he was just sharing, people will tell you what's possible when they haven't done it. And that's really just their perspective of what's possible. It's doesn't mean that that's actually truth. That's not necessarily what's actually fact. Um, and often when we say things like that, we don't think about the impact it has on that person. We don't think about what we say to other people. Like, we just don't maybe put very much weight on it, but when somebody else is receiving that, it can feel huge. And so that's probably also a lesson just in general for paying attention to our limiting beliefs that we're sharing with other people, our limiting beliefs that we are putting out into the world, things that we are telling people about what is possible and what's not possible. And this is part of why I am so passionate in my business about things being very kind of like a personal journey. Like, I talk about so much. There are so many marketing strategies. There are so many ways that you could approach business, that you could approach designing, and it's a matter of finding what actually works for you. Um, and I don't like when people use absolutes. You have to do this. You need to do this. You should do this. This is the way to be successful. This is the way to make money. This is the way to design the pattern. Because there's a whole lot more flexibility than that in life and in business and in creativity. And so much of it for us as creatives and artists and business owners is that we need to become so, or there I am using a need. I have found it so helpful for myself to become so aware of who I am, how I operate, what drives me, what motivates me, what inspires me, what what I really want, what I really desire, what my goals really are, so that I can actually weed through the advice. I can weed through the suggestions. I feel like, that is not for me. That might be for somebody else. That is not for me. And that's part of why, like in my one-on-one coaching or in the pattern design circle membership, all of those things, like I am so passionate about, all right, here's what I'm hearing from you. These are some options, or based on what you just said, this would kind of be my recommendation. But then I always ask, how does that feel for you? Because if it doesn't feel in alignment, if it doesn't feel authentic, I do not want you to do it. I am an idea generator. I can probably come up with a million more ideas. I want the solution to be something that feels really good to you. I want for all of us to be able to have businesses that we feel good about, that feel aligned and authentic, that we really enjoy, that we love, that it's not a have to or a should. It's not just I need to do this to make money, but this is an art life practice that is just like integrated. And that's also part of why, I'm just gonna go down all my philosophy holes here, huh? But just like when there are absolutes, it doesn't leave space for who you are as a human. It also doesn't leave space for other parts of life. So I believe firmly that business should not be our whole life. I had spent several years living that way, because I felt like that was the only way that, I'd eventually find success. But I'm so passionate about looking at things holistically, looking at things from a perspective of, all right, this business aspect, this creative aspect, this is just one part of my life. I want it to fit in a way that feels good and where I can feel good about the rest of my life too. So, alrighty. So then Anders, he shared, your limitations are just perceptions. Your limitations are just perceptions. So the things that are holding you back, where you're like, this isn't possible, I can't do this, that's just a perception. That's just an idea that you have about yourself, about the world, about the way things work. It is not a fact. There are so many things that we do that we prove ourselves wrong. And maybe this is just an idea off the top of my head right now. I wonder if perhaps that is only possible to prove ourselves wrong, to prove our limitations wrong, if we are willing to step outside of our comfort zone. So I would encourage you, think about what are the limitations that I am putting on myself? What are the beliefs that I have? What are, maybe it's about time, maybe it's about your capabilities, your strengths, your, yeah, just your abilities in general, or maybe it's a limitation you have around your audience. Um, what are those limitations? When you say, I would, but, or I want to, but, what comes after the but there? What is it that you're like, oh, I'd love to do that, but I can't because what's your reason for why you can't or why you won't? And is that a limitation that you want to hold on to? Look at those limitations, and even if you still believe those limitations to be true, um, start to question, what and think about like what could I do that would prove that limitation wrong? What could I do that would show myself that that is just a perception? So like for Anders, he hadn't been swimming in cold water and biking in the snow and all of these things before. He had to build up to it, and so it was really kind of breaking down one limitation after another of working out in these really cold environments and swimming through ice water and um, like just proving again and again to himself of what was possible and to some of the folks that were around him. Um, so yeah, everyone around him told him that it wasn't possible. His family, other trainers, um, he didn't have people supporting his dream, and everyone told him to stop. And this resonated with me a lot because I know that something that I have, I guess if we're gonna get vulnerable here, I have definitely struggled with that a fair bit in my business of like, I in my real life, in my personal uh family life and friend group, um, don't have a lot of people who are, and for a long time I felt like I didn't have anyone who was really supportive of my business or really believed that it was possible. They kind of felt like I was just, doing something, just knitting, uh, for the fun of it. And I'd get really frustrated. And I would especially get frustrated when I read these stories from folks who talked about the people in their family or their friends supporting them and supporting them very actively, like the encouragement that they would give them and the advice and the help that they'd give them, like helpful advice in terms of like business and stuff. And then helping them with like at craft fairs, helping them set up and helping them vend. And because that's how I started. I started at selling on Etsy and at craft fairs, the actual physical items. Um, People who helped them, maybe with sample knitting and attending events with them, or just all these different things where I was sometimes get super discouraged because it's like these people have so much help helping them make this possible and believing in them and supporting them and doing things for them. And I just felt super alone in my journey. Which hey, that's that's nothing new, right? We know that because if you've heard the journey of how pattern design circle was created, that was because I felt very lonely as a designer. Um, so anyway, that just resonated a lot with me. If you feel like you're in that kind of position as well, know that you are seen and that that also doesn't determine your trajectory or your end path. Um, I am thankful that I've kind of slowly collected uh, some folks that are supportive, especially one one person in particular who I know is probably watching this because she watches everything. Um, and she's a huge cheerleader of mine. And so we do slowly collect those people who do support us and are excited for us, and that's really beautiful. And I think the more that we can um, surround ourselves with those people, it just adds to the beauty of the journey. It doesn't mean that the journey is not possible without them, um, but it makes it easier, perhaps especially um, emotionally, things like that. So, wow. Um, excuse me as I cry my eyes out. Um, so anyway, continuing the story, we'll see how long this episode is. I should have paid attention to what time I started recording. Um, anyway, everyone told Anders it wasn't possible, but still he was so determined to follow his dream. And this is something that I see over and over again when I just like watching other creators telling their stories and creatives, that's what I mean. That even when people don't believe in them, that dream, that goal is so important to them. Like they just feel like it's really something that is driving them and that they need to do, or that like they're not going to feel fulfilled without doing it. And so there are so many people, so many creatives who now you look at them and you're like, oh, they're so successful. They're the top YouTube creators, they're the top people in their industry, but they weren't successful for a very long time. Um, I'm thinking of one YouTube duo in particular, and it was like, they spent, at this point now, it was like 2/3 of their career, they were just struggling to try to find like a groove or whatever. And now it's been 1/3 of their career where they're like, oh, we're actually like making a profit. And now they're really big and, seen as super successful. But what we don't see so much of the time is how much time went into becoming a success. We do see people who feel like they were instant success, people who start designing and the next year you see their face everywhere. It's easy to notice those, and those are, beautiful. I don't want to take away from those stories either. Those are amazing, and they've done amazing work. And also, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be successful if that hasn't been your path, if that hasn't been your trajectory. That so often, and I would, from my limited perspective of the world, I would argue that it's more often than not, it takes time. It takes a lot of time, and it's okay. Like, it's not something wrong with you. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It doesn't mean, like you're on the wrong path or anything like that. Um, it's just the way life goes. I think there are a lot of different reasons, a lot of different things that combine to that. And I personally continue to believe that really staying aligned and authentic is the most important thing to me. I would rather have a business that isn't as successful but feels good than to have a business where I did all of the right things and I'm miserable. And so if you resonate with that, know that that's okay. We are following our path. We are following our passion. We are following our values and really staying true to what is most important to us. And sometimes that means a little slower path. Um, so Anders, despite all of this, he quit his job. He took out $100,000 loan and he dedicated his life for over 2 years to make this happen. He had not run an Ironman before. Um, he did run several in training. He didn't even have a trainer to tell him how to train. He had created his own workouts and everything. Um, and it's so inspiring to me. I don't even know. Like, I feel like I could say so much, and I'm already making this episode super long. So, um, but it was to the point that he had thought originally that he would have like it'd be fairly easy to fund this because he'd get a bunch of sponsorships from big companies and all of this. Potential sponsors declined him because they were so certain he was going to fail and they did not want to have their brand associated with failure. Like that is how strong limiting beliefs can be. That is how strongly I don't know, I guess just so much proof in case it wasn't obvious when I introduced this Project Iceman. He did complete the Ironman on Antarctica. He proved it was possible. He did it. And so like to me, this just like shows like just how wrong we as humans can be about what's possible. And sometimes that's, like mentally what we think is possible, like so much of accomplishing a feat like this is the mindset. Business is a lot of like mindset and believing in yourselves and self and actually following through with that. Um, but yeah, and so and then it was even like while he was doing the race, while he's working this, making this happen, he's doing the thing in Antarctica, and his team that he'd built around him, he had professionals who knew what they were doing, and then he had like his brother and stuff, people that he knew. But it was like even as he's like running this race, which is absolutely like so much work, I found it just like mind-boggling that it felt like at times he was supporting his team. He was coaching his team. He was like telling them like, hey, this is like he was trying to pump them up and like have their mindset on par instead of what I would have expected would have been the other way around, where they'd be like, which that that's it's not the whole story. Like there were times, I think, especially towards the end, where they were cheering him on more. But uh, it's just like even once he got to that point, it didn't mean that it was a smooth sailing, people just cheering him on or whatever. Like it was his grit, his determination that he was going to do this thing. That is what got him through. That is what helped him actually achieve this goal and this dream. And it's incredible, right? Like if you I guess if you don't like inspirational motivational stuff, this isn't for you. But to me, that's just like we can take ourselves so far. We can help ourselves so much. We can support our own selves so much just with our own grit and determination. But we have to maintain that like positivity and focus on our goal and have our dream in front of us in order to make that possible. So, um, 2 years into this training and everything, he was doing this thing. He'd already taken out the loan and all the things. After 2 years, he was finally seen by Yes Theory, their YouTube channel, and they're all about seeking discomfort, doing things that are difficult. So this was totally aligned with their brand, and they then, well, Yes Theory says they were inspired by what he was doing, and they made him the first human that they have ever sponsored. So like sponsored him as a human, not just like sponsoring the trip. Um, and then they gifted him a check to cover his loan, and then they hosted this whole event where they brought along their community to support him. And so it was like it's just this beautiful point of validation where he was seen. This is me putting my own words to it, but like he was 2 years in. He had quit his job. He had gotten a $100,000 loan. This isn't US dollars. It's Danish, I think. So it's conversion rate's not $100,000 US dollars, but um, regardless, it's a lot of money. And he he dedicated all this time to training. Like he still was absolutely certain that he was going to do this, and finally he was seen. Finally, like he was rewarded more than he probably could have imagined from, especially from one company. Um, and not only was he seen, did he receive financial support, but then he received this whole community of support backing him as well. And that's to me the beauty of patience and persistence. That like if we are doing good quality work, if we continue to pursue our dream and to follow it, it won't necessarily be 2 years. It might be less, it might be more, it could be way more. Like from the creatives that I have followed and listened to, it could be way longer than 2 years. But the point is that that does seem to happen at some point. If you keep pushing, if you keep so determined and so aligned with your goals and your dreams, and you keep sharing it with the world, like it will pay eventually. Like it will, you will be seen, and whatever it looks like in your journey, it could be being seen by larger companies, all that stuff. I had that whole episode about, people are watching. You never know who might see you. And I think so often there are, we start to be seen in small ways before we're seen in a very big way. So like just the encouragement, the inspiration again to keep pushing through. Yes, it's hard. Yes, you may feel alone. Yes, people may be telling you that it's not possible and that you're absolutely ridiculous. Um, and yes, you can prove them wrong. Yes, you can achieve your dream. Yes, people will see you and find so much inspiration and value in your story. And so, yeah, I guess that's kind of what I wrote in my notes here. What I was processing while watching. I would like pause the documentary as I'm like making notes. Anyway, so what I wrote was sometimes you have to follow your dream, focus on your passion, ignore all of the feedback, and just keep pushing. Your dedication and successes will help some people to support you and believe in you. And I think that some is important. We're never going to have support from everyone. There are always going to be naysayers. Sometimes, we see that with super successful. And if you're listening to this and not watching the recording or watching the video version, every time I say success, I put it in air quotes because success is something else that's made up, and it all depends on your perspective. But when we see people who are quote unquote successful, that also brings a whole lot of haters. Like there's people will be jealous and upset because of success as well. And that's a whole nother hurdle that's, difficult to overcome. But like if you keep pushing, if you keep dedicated, if this is something that you're truly so passionate about and so excited about, keep doing it. Some people will see you and support you and believe in you. But some people still won't believe until it's done. This might actually be a paraphrasing from the documentary. I don't remember. But some people still won't believe it's possible until it's done. So even once he'd been doing all this training, they were on this ship, the boat going to Antarctica. He still had plenty of people who did not believe in him. He still he hadn't trained at all in Antarctica. He hadn't been swimming in that water. He hadn't been on that snow. He hadn't been through the huge snowstorm that he was about to go through. And I guess maybe it's not a huge snowstorm for Antarctica. Seemed like a big deal as a human that's now having to navigate that. But Antarctica obviously is a harsh climate. Anyway, some people still won't believe that it's possible, even as you are pushing boundaries, overcoming obstacles, overcoming limitations, showing that so much more is possible. there will be people who still don't believe your dream is possible. That's just a fact of life. And so maybe it would help us, mindset wise, to just acknowledge that and accept that and to be okay with the fact that not everybody has to believe in our dream. Um, our dream is our dream, it's not their dream. Our dream is our passion, it's not their passion. They don't have to be as excited about it as we are. What's most important is our passion, our dream, our excitement, our dedication, our perseverance. That those are things that, well, yes, it helps to have a support system who's building you up and cheering you on and so excited for you. Um, but the piece that's actually going to get you there is what's in you. It's you actually doing the thing. Um, and so yeah, it was just like, um, well, this is kind of going off onto another tangent though, but it was like as he's competing in this, he's not, I guess, not really competing because he's not up against other people, but as he's accomplishing this thing, as he is running the race, um, it was like he hadn't even been fully aware of the conditions that he was going to be up against. So seemed like it was a bit harder than he was even expecting. It took him a lot longer than he was expecting. Um, like there was just the extreme weather, there was um, crevices. So it was like, it seemed like maybe the reality of kind of what he was up against was really hitting as he's on this boat going there. The huge crevices that he had to make sure he didn't fall down into. Um, and then like in swimming, like the leopard seals that were swimming around him. And then how difficult it was going to be to bike through all this snow. It was like he wasn't even seemed to be fully aware of all of the conditions, but he still was able to do it. Like sometimes maybe it's better if we don't know how difficult it's going to be, and don't focus on that part. Like I think psychologically, our brains, it's easy to be focused on everything that might go wrong, everything, how hard it is, how impossible it may seem. But kind of what I'm going back to the beginning of focusing on the negative versus the positive, are we actually going to accomplish that thing if we are just focused on the hard stuff, just focused on proving that limitation true? Or are we going to be focused on proving the limitation wrong, proving that it's possible, proving that we can achieve our goal and our passion and our dream? What is actually going to help us get to where we want to be, where we're meant to be? I have a feeling it's not indwelling in the negativity. Negativity. It's not indwelling in the limiting beliefs. It's not improving the limiting beliefs true. It's instead really focusing on what's possible, really focusing on proving our passion and our dream is true. Um, and so Anders, so the whole another mind-boggling part of this whole story to me is that this wasn't even like Anders' big dream in life. This wasn't like the thing that he really wanted to accomplish in life, but it's representative of um, something else he did want to accomplish. And now he's pushing towards that dream. So he says everyone has an Iron Man in their life. Everyone has this big thing that they dream of, that they want to achieve, that they want to, they will feel fulfilled by, that they're excited by. And they have all of these limiting beliefs around it. They have all of these people that are telling them that it's not possible. But he proved it is possible to achieve your Ironman. He proved that you can follow through with that, even though there are so many other things that might hinder you. And so for him, it is actually his Ironman of life is to be on a pro soccer team. There's a whole lot of story about when he was young, that he, yeah. Anyway, I won't give it all away. But there were reasons that he wasn't on a soccer team, and he'd been told that he couldn't do it. And so now that's what he's doing in his life. He's actually working towards the Ironman in his life. He proved that this Ironman on Antarctica was possible, and it wasn't even like his biggest dream. So what is your Ironman? What is the thing that you dream of, that you really want, but you've been telling yourself or other people have been telling you that it's not true? It could be something, a physical ability thing. It could be a business thing. It could be a creative, artistic thing. It could be something like hobby farming, or like just the option, like it could be anything. What I'm trying to say. So what's your Ironman? What is the thing that you really want to accomplish? And go through those limiting beliefs. Go through and like pay attention to the fact that so many of those limiting beliefs are not facts. Maybe none of them are facts. They are just perceptions. Those limiting beliefs aren't necessarily true for you, and you can prove that those limiting beliefs aren't true for you. You can prove those limiting beliefs wrong. You can prove that you are able to conquer those limitations. You are able to go above and beyond, and you're able to achieve those things that you dream of. Do you believe it? It's okay if you don't fully believe it right now, but I hope that you'll start to consider it, and start to maybe pick away at those limitations, pick away at the feelings that you can't do it, feelings that maybe you're a failure, feelings that nobody's supporting you, and so you're not going to be able to push through. Yeah. And I'm here cheering you on for your Ironman in life, in business, in creativity. It's possible. And just pay attention to your path, the path that is meant for you, the path that brings fulfillment for you, the path that lights you up, even if it's difficult, even though it's difficult, that lights you up, that brings you so much joy. And I've got your back. I'll see you on the next episode. Wow, thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found it valuable, please share the podcast with a designer friend. And if you have a minute, leave a review. It's so helpful for me and means the world to me. Chat soon.